Good morning, everyone, or wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast. We are here with Rena Kukureja, and I am so glad to have you on this morning. How are you?
Hello, Michelle. Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you.
Oh, great. Awesome. So, everyone, I want to introduce you to Rena. I'm going to read her bio right here. She is an amazing woman, and I would not be doing her justice if I just tried to wing it. So, Rena is a children's life coach, author, and keynote speaker dedicated to transforming the way we speak to and connect with children. I have to say, I love that. I did ECE for years, and I know you have, but I love the way that is written there. So good. A former educator turned thought leader in child development, communication, and conscious parenting. Rena empowers parents, educators, teachers, and caregivers with practical science backed strategies to nurture confidence, resilience, and emotional intelligence in children. Having worked with homeschooling communities, awesome, I love it. I homeschooled also, children, educators, and parenting groups worldwide. Rena brings a unique perspective shaped by both research and real life experience. She knows firsthand the power of words, not just from her work, but from her own journey. Once trapped in a cycle of people pleasing and self sacrifice, she broke free, rewrote her own narrative, and is now on a mission to help others to do the same for the next generation. Awesome. Her engaging and thought provoking speaking style makes her a sought after speaker for parenting summits, education conferences, and leadership workshops. She is the recipient of the Rising Star Award for speaking and the author of Speak with Presence: The Power of Words in Shaping Young Minds. Beyond the stage, Rena homeschools her daughters, loves hiking in nature, and believes that stories and language shape the leaders of tomorrow. If you're ready to revolutionize the way you can communicate with children, Rena is the speaker you need. Oh, so good. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being on with us today. I'm so glad to have you.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Yes. Like you said, I'm a speaker and I'm also a seeker. So both.
Oh, great. That is so awesome. So, yeah, right here it says that you love hiking in nature.
Mhm.
Where's some of the best places that you've hiked so far?
Oh, wow. I
Yeah,
started
you're
hiking as a
froze.
child, so it's been a long journey. I started in Kenya, where I grew up. My first 12 years were in Kenya, so we were always outdoors. We only went indoors to sleep. And then in Botswana as well, there was lots of safaris and outdoor adventures we did. And I continue that here in Vancouver, Canada, where I am currently, always exploring. Every weekend we go and discover new places to hike and be in nature. So refreshing.
That is so great. I was in Kenya on a safari a few years back, and if anyone asked me like, where's the one place I would want to go back to, and that is Kenya.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing that I was so amazed to see is that wild animals, like, I mean, animals, where we just see them in zoos, right?
Yes.
The giraffe, the elephants, they're just the lions, they're just in the zoos. That's where I've seen them all my life. I'm born and raised here on Hawaii. And you see them running, to
Yeah.
see them actually running. It touched my heart so much to see that in nature.
Mm, mm.
So yeah, I just
Beautiful.
love
Yeah.
that so much.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you must have seen a lot of animals growing up.
For sure. There, I feel so comfortable being around animals and plants. And in fact, this may sound crazy, but I actually talk to them. And I talk to my
Oh,
plants. My daughters used to make fun of me and said, "Oh, mama with her plants." But I talk to them, I give them love, and they've seen that when you really give love to anything that's living, it responds back. It's so beautiful.
yeah. That is so good. You know, I love that because I think as a ECE, early
Mm.
childhood educator, we talk to the children, right? We speak to the children, and like you said, you talk to your plants, you talk to the animals, and I think that it's that communication. When you have that communication with everything around you, it's so much easier to communicate
Hmm.
with children,
Beautiful.
right? That
For sure.
connection.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you mentioned ECE. Yes. So I was a high school teacher and I've taught teenagers and then I went into preschool teaching at ECE. So I used to be that, but now I guide families on a different path, one that honors magic and the mess and just that sacredness of raising awake children. So my work really centers on soft skills like confidence, communication, resilience, and all of that which is rooted in the subconscious mind. Because I
Right.
believe that every word, like you said, every word that we speak to a child, that becomes the soil for their beliefs. And I am
Yes.
here to help plant seeds that grow into light. So every word that you say, it doesn't just get out of your mouth into their ears, but it goes from your mouth into their ears, into their heart, into their self worth. So just being aware of how we speak to children, what we say to them, when we become very intentional and aware, then that makes the whole difference. Then you're laying that foundation for the child's rest of their life, right?
So good. That is so good. Yeah. I love that because you're right. You know, when you speak to children, I and you said you were with teenagers. You were teaching high school
I was
before,
teaching high
yeah.
school before I went
Yeah.
into early childhood education. Yes.
So for me, I found it more difficult to speak with the teenagers, you
Mm,
know? And so there is a difference in the communication as they grow. But I
right.
think as the foundation, if you can build confidence in the children while they're younger, I
Hmm.
think that is really important, right?
Yes, for sure, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
because you set that foundation for them.
For sure, like we you and I and we all know that that age range between 0 to 7, that is just the foundation of who that child becomes when they grow up. Everything we say to a child in that age, they absorb it, like that sponge, they absorb it to be the truth. So whatever you
Yeah.
tell a child at that age, they take it in, and that's what programs them for the rest of their life. You tell a child, "Oh, I see that you're being very creative. How did you come up with that idea?" The program, "Oh, I am creative, I find new ways of doing things." That's what's being written in their subconscious mind. You tell a child, "Oh, you're so lazy, stop it." The program, "I am lazy, I should not try new things." So every word, with we say it with good intentions, but when we become aware that we are actually preparing them for the rest of their lives, we would be very conscious of the choice of words we use when we speak to them, right?
Yes, I so agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, you it says here that you wrote a book, author of Speak with Presence: The
Yeah.
Power of Words in Shaping Young Minds.
Yes, I'm currently
Yeah.
writing that book, and I
Okay.
I'm almost completed it, but I gave myself till the end of August to release it.
Nice. That is so good. You know,
Yeah.
when I first wrote my book, Walking in Aloha, I never thought to um, that I would be a speaker. I
Hmm.
thought that writing the book was all that it was all about, right? But the power of words, you never know how far it's going to go. And that's one thing that I find so amazing is that once the words come out, once you release your book, and there, it goes out into the world, you really don't know where it's going to go. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know how far it's going to go. And that's the amazing thing about the written word. I love it. And more people started asking me to speak on it.
Ah,
Right? Yeah. And so, like with you about speaking to and shaping those young minds, I wanted to get into, let me flip right over here to our questions
okay.
because I think that is just so good. Like how you, in walking in aloha.
Mm-hmm.
So, aloha is affirmations and actions, leadership and love, overcoming obstacles, health and healing, and acute awareness. And that is the 5 steps that God walked me through my traumas. I came from like horrible domestic violence.
Ah,
And I I felt like, how am I supposed to write this book? I didn't want to bring up all the bad things, right? I didn't want to just
mm-hmm.
bring up all the trauma things. I know that I've healed. I've come through that. How did how does that work? How do I write this book? And so I told God, if you need me to write this book, you need to help me. And he said, I gave
Exactly.
you, yeah. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. This is brand new to me. And he said, I gave you everything in Aloha. And
Ah,
so as I started writing it out, I realized those are the steps that he walked me through. And in Hawaii, aloha has many meanings,
mm,
like people say hello, goodbye, aloha, but it's more than that. It's just the way that we live here. It's aloha is a lifestyle, right?
yeah.
It's the way that you live. And I think with us going through teaching children,
Mm-hmm.
raising children, like you have to have that aloha in you.
Yes.
But yeah, so let me switch here. I actually realized that when we switched over, it went live to Riverside and on YouTube, but it is not live on Facebook.
Okay.
So I'm going to take a second. I'm going to share it to Facebook.
Okay.
So let me just flip over there, and then I'm going to share a link, and then we can just continue
Okay.
on. Yeah, that's the way that, like I said, it's funny because tech is the way it is. And it used to bother me before, but I realized that, okay, so I just made 57 years old, right? And I'm like, I am just too old for all of this stuff. It is what it is. It so
Yeah.
it it doesn't really like worry me or bother me, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's just a nuisance. But we
And
have
and
to deal with it the way it is.
and the best of the tech people also go through. There's always tech gremlins, no matter what. So we just
Tech,
walk
I
with
love
it.
it. I love that tech gremlins. Okay, it's saying check your notifications on another device. See, that's what I mean. Like check my notifications on another device. What does that mean?
Okay. Mm. Um,
Okay. And if we don't go live on Facebook,
yeah.
I know that you invited people on for Facebook, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So
I think
let's
even if
see.
they watch the recording, it'll be fine. So
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. That's what I was going to say. It will be recorded. It will be shared on many different platforms.
Okay.
And on YouTube, the live video is there on YouTube.
Okay.
So we can just continue on because right now it's asking me to go another way to get onto Facebook, and I don't have time to do that part.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay. Affirmations and actions.
Okay.
It- So your works shape. Wait, let me read this better. Your work centers on how words shape a child's world.
Mhm.
Can you share a moment when a simple affirmation
Yeah.
or shift in language changed the trajectory of a child's behavior or confidence.
Hmm. Yes. Um, I will share a story about my little girl. I have two luminous daughters, 11 years old Noor
Oh,
and 5 years old Sana. So I'm practicing all this on my own kids first. So with Sana, what I do is I believe that when children go to sleep, that time where they're not yet sleeping and not yet fully awake, that's the time that I actually whisper quiet affirmations to her as she's going to sleep. So I'm rubbing her back and I'm whispering things like, Sana is confident. Sana makes friends easily. Sana is born to shine. S- Sana is loved. So I'm compiling all this in my book, over 100 things that I say to my daughter. So a moment where these affirmations shifted her behavior, I remember very clearly is, they believe what we whisper to them in the quiet. So there was one time that she got hurt and it started bleeding on her wrist. And then the friends came and said, "Oh my goodness, you're bleeding. Let's, oh no, you're bleeding." And she said, "My body heals fast because I talk to it." And she quietly just took, because I tell them about, these leaves, plantain, when you crush it and you put it, it's like a natural antiseptic, it heals the wound. So she quietly picks up the leaf, crushes it, and just places it on her owie. And I just observed that. And she said, what she said, I wrote it down. She said, "My body heals fast because I talk to it." And I thought, that is incredible power. She was 3 years old that time. And when she said that, "My body heals fast because I talk to it." And that is what she's telling her body. And she's unaffected by the blood that's rushing because she knows that her body will do that job. So I thought,
yeah.
ooh, this stuff really works. And then another time, I remember last year, during 2 years ago, she was three, when we had just left a Christmas party. We were walking to our car, and she said to me, "Mama, I think you're right." And I said, "Oh, what about, Sana?" She says, "You're right. I make friends easily." I said, "Oh, tell me more." She said, there was this girl called Cami, and I went up to her, and she seemed like she was very quiet, and she seemed like she wanted to be my friend, but she didn't say anything. I went up to her and I said, "Hi, what's your name?" And I asked her her age, and I told her my age, and we sat down and we played together. That is how we make friends, Mama. I said, "Absolutely right." She says, "I can make friends easily." And then I remembered, because this is one of the things I say to her daily, Sana can make friends easily. So these are the affirmations that really work, affirmations that helps shift who the child's behavior and who she truly is deep inside.
That is so wonderful, and just for her to be that calm, because most children will be like scared or,
Yeah,
because they got hurt or they see blood and you're like, but she was like, no, it's okay. I
my
heal
body
fast,
heals.
my body heals fast.
Yeah,
And I'm like, that to hear you say that coming from a 3-year-old, that's powerful,
yeah.
and it shows that the things that you have told her or you've instilled in her
Mm,
throughout that time, or your quiet moments,
yeah,
really is impacting her life. And I love that you're teaching your children on the nature, on how the plants heal.
yes,
Yeah, because like you said, you grew up in Kenya, you grew up in nature.
yeah.
So those kind of things, a lot of things like that, those time, or it could be lost, right?
Mm,
We come
mm,
into more modern times, I guess, and then you're like things that we've learned as a child or learned in our past, those are lost. But that
mm.
is so good that you're carrying it on with your
Yes,
children,
yes.
not only in your words but in your actions too, by
Yes,
teaching
yes.
them the nature
And these
product.
children are teaching other children. So she says, "Oh, you don't need Band-Aid. Just grab plantain, crush it, and put it. That's your Band-Aid." And That's it. That's your natural band-aid.
Wow. See, you taught me something already because plantain, the only thing I thought of is those banana looking things, right? Plantain.
Plantain, that's
That's
another
the
name for the banana, yes. But there's these tiny leaves that grow like a weed everywhere. In fact, they grow between two rocks, and they're such resilient plants. They grow everywhere. You just pick a leaf and crush it, and the juices of that literally heals. It's like a healing balm.
wow, that is just so great. I love it. See, everyone, this is how podcast works. We bring in people and you learn something new. How many of you didn't know that? I bet there's a lot of you out there, right? so so leadership and love. L, you walked away from the societal norms.
Hmm.
I know that you're now homeschooling, or like you say, unschooling.
Yes.
Yes, I love that. And expectations to follow a new path, one rooted in intentional parenting and child advocacy.
Hmm.
What did leadership look like in that season? And how did love guide your decisions? Because I know that there's a lot of people who are kind of held back
Yeah.
from change,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you see, like you, Michelle, I come from a lineage of very strong and powerful women. You know, women who gave everything for their families and more. But then you and I, we inherited more than love. We inherited beliefs. We inherited that serving yourself first is selfish. We
Hmm.
inherited that rest is laziness. We inherited that you got to take care of others before you take care of yourself, and that was what was depleting me. You know, that was completely draining and depleting me. And the funny thing is, I used to look at that as a badge of honor. I used to say, oh, look, I'm the last one to sleep, I clean, and then I'm the first one to wake up. Yay, I'm a superwoman. But you got to learn to serve yourself first. You know, when I walked away from the school system, uh, 5 years ago, I walked away from it. It was a huge leap. It was like swimming upstream. I wasn't sure. I was like, what if I got this wrong? And all the what ifs. And staying small seemed safer. But then I realized that I do not want to pass these beliefs to my daughters. No way. That's what motivated me to go. So I chose this conscious parenting program, and it did not feel like leadership at first. It completely didn't. But then, like you said, love became my compass. Not fear,
Hmm.
not conformity. Love said it. Be love told me, be the kind of adult you wish you had as a child. And that was my guiding compass. That's what took me forward.
That is so good, because I homeschooled my children also. And I love it that my grandchildren are now being homeschooled.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yes.
Yeah,
So, what you give to your children, as I said, as they got to be teenagers, it got a little harder. I have to admit that
right.
because now they have their own, minds, and they kind of think like, "Oh, mom, you don't know everything." But
Yeah,
so
that
yeah,
age is coming.
it
For
gets
me too. My daughter's 11. It's coming. And I'm ready for it too. I think the deep connection is what matters. If the base is there, it doesn't matter. Like you can build
yes,
to
yeah.
anything.
And
Yeah.
so that's why I say, to see them now, my own children homeschooling my grandchildren. And I just love watching them
Yeah.
teach. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So to see that, and like you said, it's the love that is your compass.
Mm-hmm.
And there's times where people are going to feel that way. And I know that there's many people out there who are going to say that, change is hard.
Yeah.
Change is hard. And it is what it is.
Yeah.
No one can deny the fact that when you go into something different, when you go into something of the unknown, It's
Mm.
going to be hard and you're going to have those fears and doubts that come across.
Yeah.
But when you have a solid compass, when you have a
Mm.
solid guide, then you're like, no, I know my why, I
Yeah.
know where I'm going, and this is why I'm doing it. And
Yes.
so that is why I started to homeschool my own children too,
Mm-hmm.
is because, we can talk about the host system of
Oh yeah.
the school
Let's not get into
system,
that.
but
The oppression in the
yeah, I know that's a
system.
whole other story.
Yeah.
But what we do for our children is
Yeah.
amazing. So
Yeah.
that
Like
is so good.
yeah, and like you said, that compass is that love. And there'll
Hmm.
always be naysayers, no matter what you do. There'll always be people who'll tell you you're not doing. And then recently I read Mel Robbins' books, Let Them, and that just changed.
Yes.
Like
Oh, I love
it
it.
just I loved what she writes there. So just it doesn't matter. You just love is your compass. Go with what you feel is right for you. No matter what you
Yeah.
do, people will say things, and it's beautiful. That changed a lot of things for me too.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that book, Let Them, because I'm actually in reading that book right
Okay,
now. And
okay.
I love the way that she just started, with her own children, right? That's how
Mm-hmm.
the book went with her own children. Her son was going to prom or whatever that was.
Yeah,
And she's like, oh, worry, this has got to be this way. And I got to
yeah,
do this and I got to do that. And the daughter's like, Mom, just
yeah.
let them. They want to do it this way, let them, do
Mhm.
it. And for her to see as they went, and as they went out in the rain or whatever and
Yeah,
got their clothes dirty, and she's like, they're still enjoying life.
yeah.
They're doing what they want to do. Let them,
Mm.
right? Because you don't know what's going to happen if you just give them the freedom to do,
And
right?
learn from their
And
own mistakes, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So just giving them that freedom to do what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a time when my children, while homeschooling, they wanted to go to I think it was a junior high or something. And there was like choir and other activities that they wanted to do there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, sure, we can do that. So sent them off, like for those projects, and they would come home and they would tell me, Mom, we couldn't do this. We couldn't have our free mic time because the kids were doing this and they weren't even listening. And I don't know why they can't even just listen. And I'm thinking, yeah, you understand now,
Yeah.
because you give them the freedom to see what what we already know. You just let
Mm.
them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's so good to give them that freedom. Overcoming obstacles. So you mentioned before about breaking generational cycles. I said
Yes.
curses. What are some of the inner challenges that you had to face and overcome in order to rewrite that script? Yeah.
Yes, like I said, I had to do a lot of unlearning. I had to unlearn the idea that being a good woman means self-sacrifice.
Mm,
That my worth was measured by how much I did for others. And I realized that I was raising my daughters to do the same. And unless I healed that belief, I would be passing it on to the next generation. So I did the hardest thing, which was I put myself first. So I say to people, FLY, fly, which stands for first love yourself. Take care of your
nice.
own needs before you can take care of others. If you're going to serve from obligation, if you're going to serve from half empty, if you're going to serve from duty, oh, I just have to do this because I'm a mom. That's not love. Love is when you have from a full cup, from the overflow, and your children want that too. Your children don't want you to not take care of yourself. I wish my parents had taken care of themselves before when I was a child. It would have been such a different picture, but they took care of our needs before their own, and they were burnt out, right? And then that brings up the guilt in a child. Oh, that's happening because of me. But if you serve from overflow, from a space of love, from giving because I want to, it's not because I have to, it's because I want to, then they can feel it, they can sense it, and that's what they carry on. So I had to unlearn a lot of things, and I don't know, calling it breaking generational cycles, I guess. And
That is.
to somebody who feels stuck or like stuck or unqualified, I must say this from what I've gone through is that you do not need to be perfect. You just
Mhm.
have to be present. And you're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. And even just one conscious moment is enough to shift a pattern. And I I'll tell you a story. When my older one was 5 and I was preparing dinner, and I said, "Oh, I've got it. I've got it today. I'll be a mom who's not going to yell, and I've got it. Everything's under control, and I'm cooking dinner, and I'm thinking about the meeting." I was a teacher at that time. I'm thinking about tomorrow's meeting. I call her to the table, and I was like, "Dinner's ready." She comes to the table and she looks at the food and she goes, "Yuck, I don't want to eat that." And I lost it. I lost it. I said, "You are so
Mm.
ungrateful. There's so many." I even talked about starving children in the world. "You're so ungrateful. Just eat that food. Stop being so fussy." I started shouting. And before I realized, I was like, oh no, I lost the connection between my words and my heart. And she started crying and ran to her room. Now, we all yell, right? It's not like, but the question is not, do you lose it? The question is, what do you do after? So I asked myself, what can I do now? How can I repair? As much as I didn't want to, I went to her room, I followed her, and I sat beside her. I kneeled. "Please forgive me. It's not your fault. I'm sorry that I did that. I yelled. I was thinking about things going on in school and the meetings. It's not your fault. Please forgive me. Will you please forgive me?" What do you think the 5-year-old did? Of course, she forgave me. We hugged, and we ate dinner together. And then I realized that Gabor Mate's quote that just always stays, and he said that children are not traumatized because they are hurt. Children are traumatized because they're left alone in the hurt. And that
Mm.
just stayed with me. Like, what do you do after you've lost it? You and I, we are human beings. We lose it, whether it's with our spouse or with our children or with our friends or workmates. We will lose our cool. What do you do after is the question. How do you repair the rupture? Right? So yeah, it's been a long journey of learning and unlearning and correcting and being better every single day.
Oh, that really, that's a hard thing for me to hear. Well, it's not. It's because, I already raised my children, right?
Right.
They're already grown and stuff. So just looking back at that, and
Mm,
how many times did I not go back and do that and say sorry
mm,
or anything like that? And to hear you say, it's not that they get hurt, it's sitting in that hurt, right? And I'm like, oh, that's hard to hear, because if I look back at their lives and the lives I'm raising them, I'm like, oh, there's times when I did that. Go to your room,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm still upset. Well, you go stay in your room, and they just stay in it. But what are they doing? They're sitting in that hurt. Whatever happened, right? So that is so good, to
Mm,
hear. And for all the parents who are still raising your children, or even now, I have grandchildren, you
mm,
know,
mm.
something said, something done, you go in and yeah, you lay down your pride, you
And
lay
you
down that
repair.
part of yourself, and
Yeah.
you're like, okay, you know, even though you, like you said, you you don't really feel like, oh, I gotta go do this. You gotta,
Yes.
yeah. So
And
you just make yourself
yeah.
go and say sorry,
Mm,
because you know you're the adult and she's 5, right? So to hear that, and you went in and you hugged and everything, it shows that, wow,
Mm,
yes, if she was hurting at that moment where she was, and then that hug heals, right? Because
mm,
that is
mm.
one thing that people don't realize. It's that closeness, it's that bonding that
Yeah,
heals,
exactly,
right? So
exactly. And
to just be together.
which comes to the next, which is health and healing. You know how I was
Yes.
carrying these in my mind for many years, that my mom or my dad was not there for me. But I looked at it from a different perspective, and so can you. Maybe you can have that hard conversation with your child who is a grown up now. Is that we do the best that we can with what we know and what we have. I wasn't
Mhm.
my mom, when she said all those things when as a child which had hurt me, she didn't know any better. She just did the best that she could with what she had and what she knew, right? So then we
Yeah.
move on from there, and then having those hard conversations that if like if I were in your place, I would sit with that adult child and say, it's never too late, to say, I'm sorry that I had said this to you, whatever it was in childhood, but now I know better. So can we repair that, like in your own words, in your own way? It's never too
Yeah.
late for that healing to happen. Never too late.
Right. That is so good. That
Yeah.
is so powerful. You know, like you said, health and healing,
Yeah.
because we can always step into that healing.
Mm,
We don't
mm.
have to let it go, take it to the grave kind of thing, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So that is important. I think there's so many people. There's too many people that say, "Oh, it's just too late."
Yeah, it's never too late.
Yeah, it's never too late.
Yes.
So let's see right here. In your experience, how does emotional intelligence contribute to the long-term mental, this is a good one, and spiritual health of a child, and how can adults foster it daily?
Mm, mm. One of the core things is that children who learn to name their feelings, and they grow up, when they can learn, they can master emotional intelligence, they grow up to own their choices.
Hmm.
When we normalize these big emotions, not punish them, stop crying, what's the big deal? When we normalize big emotions, we give them tools for life. And honestly, when we model emotional fluency, we are healing ourselves too, right? We are healing ourselves, not just them. So yeah, normalizing. For me, I tell people, they say, oh, you're unschooling. What if your child is not up to the grade level of math? And I tell them, okay, so Sana is born in 2020. By the time she is 18, will be 2038. There is so much change happening in the world right now. All these things that are being taught, I don't want to get into the school system, but what is going to matter most when these children grow up is the soft skills, is the emotional uh, fluency, is the confidence. These are the things that will matter more than any other academic skill. When they can learn to master their emotions and have an so EQ being higher than IQ, EQ being higher,
Hmm.
right? That's what my focus, that's what my purpose is, and that's where I'm focusing on soft skills.
Yes. That emotional intelligence, I think, and not just me, but I've seen it um, in people hiring. They
Yes.
look for that.
Mm-hmm.
They look for more of that nowadays than other skills. That is part of the skills
For
that they're
sure.
looking for, because there's there's so much disconnect,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's so much disconnect in the world that if you want customer service, if you want to hire the right person for customer service, you're going to have to know that these people that you're bringing into your company has great qualities. And
Yeah.
for what, from what you're saying, teaching them that emotional parts of it, they'll be way ahead of,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, a lot of other people. I work at the airport, so I see a lot of people
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
coming in,
Yeah,
and so
with
I
different
can
emotions.
see, yes, but I can see a difference in the, I'm gonna say like the age, because I think a lot of younger children are, well, not, they're not young anymore, but they've grown up in that computer age or
Yeah,
video game age,
yeah.
right? And so you can see where they don't have that emotional intelligence, they
Mm-hmm.
don't have that connection, and you're like, they're on their phone, you know. And then but when you speak with them, they don't have the communication skills.
Mm-hmm.
um you see their driver's license, you see the way their handwriting is, they don't have
Yeah.
penmanship. There's a lot of disconnect,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that it is so important where you're saying the soft skills,
Yes.
the soft skills that the children don't get, you're giving to your children now. And I homeschooled my own children. People said the same thing about me. There'll be a lot of, like you said, naysayers, where
Behind.
they, yeah, they'll, that they won't understand,
Yeah.
right? All four of my children are doing fine. They're
I'm so
all,
glad to hear that.
yeah,
The adults and they're doing great, settled in their lives, right?
yes, yeah, you know, they're living on their own, they're living their productive lives, and I'm like, okay, so going in and coming in, going into Washington, Oregon, whatever. I just came back. Um, it's amazing to see,
Mhm.
because we can't see the future,
Yeah.
right? While we're in it. We can't see the future while we're in it. So sometimes it gets a little worrisome, like, am I doing enough? Or when
Mhm.
people do say
Mhm.
something, you're like, oh, I wonder if they're right.
Mm, mm. Yeah.
But now that I see my own children and all
Wow.
that I've done,
Beautiful.
I'm like, I can say to other homeschool parents, unschooling parents, that what you do for your children, and the love that you bring to them is going to carry on, because
Yes.
I've seen it, and so it's so good. I love that you're doing that. So, acute awareness, the last A in aloha.
Hmm.
So you're known for helping others become aware of unconscious language patterns. That is really good. What are a few common phrases we might be using that unintentionally disempower children?
Right. So we say things that sound very harmless. For example, you're fine, or stop crying, or be careful. But these are teaching children to override their inner truth.
Mm,
So when you're telling a child, you're fine, stop crying, you think you're just calming them down. But what are they learning? My feelings don't matter. I am not good enough. I need to pretend, because for a child, the first basic thing they need is instinct, is survival, right? So they're going to override that. They're going to say things like, for me to be able to fit in, I must do what they're telling me. Okay, so I have to shut down. And the worst thing that happens is to shut down these emotions. A child falls and you say, "You're fine, stop crying." You're telling them that what just happened to you is not what you're crying means nothing. Just
mm,
bottle up whatever's happened and you're fine, move on. So you're invalidating their feelings, right? And then they'll grow up to feel like, okay, my feelings don't matter, my emotions don't matter, and then they'll grow up to become people pleasers, and they'll have that disconnect from their inner truth, from their inner compass, which comes from their inner heart, right? So we need to replace those things like, you're fine, stop crying, to, oh, I see you're hurt. Would you like a hug? Like I've seen this. It because I've grown up hearing these. Saw myself using these phrases with my own kids. When my little one was 18 months old, she was walking and she was wobbling like a penguin, and then she suddenly fell down, her head on the ground, on the grass. And I ran after her, and I was about to say the same things I heard growing up. Oh, you're fine, get up, you're okay. But I stopped myself. I got down to her level. I looked in her eyes and I said, oh no, you got an owie? And she's crying with tears. Would you like a hug? And we just hugged. And that's all she needed. And she ran off to play. She just needed to be validated, right? She just
Yeah,
needed that recharge. So, and then I realized this is where I'm cutting these patterns, right? So let's be very conscious of the words like good job that we see. I hear that every single day on the bus or anywhere I am. Good job. You're not empowering them by saying, you when you say good job, you are raising praise junkies. You're raising a child who's going to be relying on others to tell them that they have done something good rather than relying on from coming from within. So if you do want to praise, instead of saying good job, what can we say? Oh, I see that you use red and blue. You mixed two colors together. What was in your mind when you were doing that? I know this takes longer and it takes more effort, but this is the way the child will be getting that strong foundation that we want that child, right? To Yeah, so it takes a little more effort, but it really changes the whole um, base of the child, the
that is so
foundation.
good. And how many times have we told children, say sorry?
Oh, yeah, that's another.
That one,
You're giving them a
I
passport to do something wrong again. Oh, I'll just say sorry.
right, say sorry, and they're like, okay, sorry, and it almost is like meaningless because it doesn't come from inside, like you said. Their inner self is not sorry.
Yeah,
They're not feeling that
yeah,
empathy for anyone. You're not teaching them empathy by telling them say sorry.
yeah.
You're almost telling them like, okay, your feelings don't matter. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
how you feel right now. And then you're asking them to speak a lie,
Yes. And
right?
yeah. And another thing, Michelle, is that children don't always tell us that they're hurting. They show us. They don't have the language to tell us that they're hurting. They show us. And how, in their behavior, in their silence, they're always communicating, even in their sleep patterns. So when
Mhm.
we are not only listening with our ears, we are listening with our whole being. And sometimes the most healing thing that I can say is, I'm here. I'm right here with you. And that's the most healing thing that you can say to a child. I'm here. You matter. I'm
Yeah,
listening. Tell me more, you know?
that is so good. Yeah. I've learned a lot through my teaching years, like not raising my children, because when you're raising your children, there's nobody teaching you how, there's no books. I mean, where there's lots of books. I take that back. There's lots of books. But for you to just go through life, everybody goes through life different. And
Mm,
like you said earlier, it's the way you were raised, right? So you
yeah.
bring in some of the things that your parents taught you and their parents taught them.
Mm,
And so we have to be the ones to say, wait, that's wrong. I need to change that.
yeah.
I need to
Yeah.
I need to make a difference and
Exactly.
not do the same thing and
Yeah.
break those generational
Yeah.
curses, like I say.
Yeah. And
Generational curses. Because
yeah,
it does. It is. It's like a curse,
it is. Yeah.
They didn't know it back then. My great grandparents didn't know it. They were raised the way they were raised because
Mm,
that's the way that they were taught. And then it passed on to my parents, and then it passed down to me,
yeah.
and then you raise your own children. But like
Mm,
you're doing right now is to recognize all of those patterns,
mm,
recognize those things from your past, and then change them
yeah.
for a better future for
Mm,
your children,
Exactly. And
you
like you
know.
mentioned, Michelle, about there's no books, there's no I still think there's just that one manual for parenthood or motherhood. And that manual says just one simple thing. When you take care of yourself, like when you
Mm,
do
yeah.
work on yourself, your own personal development, your own personal work that you do will have an impact on your children. So just take care of yourself. It doesn't matter what the wrong or right thing is. Your heart will guide you. You'll know what the right thing to do is when you have grounded yourself, when you have taken care of your own needs. You will definitely have that manual highlighted for you. What is the next thing to do for your child? So take care of yourself first.
Yeah, now I think after all this time, after all this time, my children see, right?
Mhm.
Because they've grown up, they've seen me go through a lot of different things. Seen me go through the hurts that I've gone through, right?
Yeah.
So divorcing their dad and all that, and so they've seen that. And now I get to work on myself, like you
Mm.
said, take care of yourself. And I only did that after all
Mm.
of that pain and hurt that I went through, during the domestic violence. Like after that
Okay.
domestic violence situation, I was able to be like, okay, there's a lot in me that I need to take care of. But my kids are already grown, right? They're already grown up. They already seen what they saw. And so I know that they have things that they have to heal from that was caused by me, and that those kind of things are like, you can't change the past, but like you said, you can heal.
Yes.
And so my my son, my daughter, like, they I have three boys and only one girl. I have eight grandchildren
Oh,
and
wow.
only one granddaughter, so
Okay.
seven of them. We're overrun by boys.
Okay.
So, but it's funny. Anyway, I know that they have their they have their healing that they have to go through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I look at them and I'm like, oh, the hurt that I've caused, you know. But to know that they have the future, they have their children, and if I can be there for them, if I can do anything, if I can share anything, and they see that I'm working on myself, and they see that I've changed,
Mm-hmm.
like, throughout the years, that is healing in itself.
Yes.
So I want to say, like, to people who's watching right now, that even though you may feel like, oh, I've done the damage, it doesn't end, right? As long
Mm-hmm.
as you have breath, as long as you have, there's still healing. You still can help,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
And it's
Yes.
that acute awareness. So,
Yes. Yes. And I say the same thing. If anybody is listening and thinking that I
mhm,
wish I had this as a child, I want you to know that it's not too late. You can become that for yourself right now and your child's, because this work heals both ways, you
right.
and your child.
Yeah. So that is so good. It
Yeah.
does. It heals both ways, like you said. You know, I want to ask, if you could leave our listeners with one sentence that every child deserves to hear,
Mhm,
what would that
mhm.
be?
One sentence that every child deserves to hear is, you're not here to be fixed. You're here to be met, remembered, and loved exactly as you are.
Oh, that is so lovely. To be loved exactly as you are. You're not here to be changed.
Mm.
You're here to be met. I love that. That is so good.
Yeah.
Ah, thank you so much for this. This is so healing for myself. And I know that our listeners right now, there's times when there's going to be hurts and
Yeah.
there's going to be healing.
Yes.
And the words that we use, like you said, we can use it to empower, we can use
Mhm.
it to disempower, right?
Yes,
There's power in our words, there's
for
power
sure.
in our writing. So, those kind of things, I want to say, just recognize, like you
Mhm.
were saying, recognize those things that need changing, right? If we don't recognize those things, then we will never change them,
Mhm.
because it's like in that recognizing, it's in that seeing.
Yes.
Like when you said you were about to run to your daughter and be like, "Oh, it's okay, get up, you're fine."
Mhm.
You recognized it like that, like you were
Exactly.
about to say
Slowly. Yes.
it, right?
And
And so that,
celebrating those little wins that, oh, I did this. Wow, I broke
yes,
one more thing. Yeah, just
yeah.
recognize and celebrate.
So
We're
those
all a
things,
work in
like,
progress.
I know that there's a lot of new moms out there. One of the I'm gonna be doing a photo shoot, and she just had twins. So there's a
Oh,
lot where people are like, "Oh, how I'm gonna make these mistakes, I'm gonna make these." And sure, you will, right? It's not gonna be perfect, it's not gonna be perfect all the time. And that's one thing that we need to give ourselves grace for, is
yes.
that it's not gonna be perfect all the
Mm,
time. But the things that you've said, that you've shared today, which is so great, is that you recognized those things.
yeah.
And the one that hit me most is to say sorry, is to go
Mhm.
and say, "Oh, I just yelled at her, like, how do I fix that? What do I do?" And then going back and saying, "Can you
Mm,
forgive
mm.
me?" Yeah,
Yes.
to say sorry. That
Yes.
is so great. That it's like, if anybody can take anything away from all of this, is that I want you to be able to recognize the things that are going to go wrong, because it will.
Mhm.
And I'm not putting any bad things on anyone, but it's the truth. We're human beings, right? We're human beings. It's going to happen. Recognize those things.
Mm, mhm.
Just in that instant, that is that small wins for you to say,
Mm.
"Oh, I was about to do this, but I stopped myself and then I changed
Yes,
it." Yeah,
for
and
sure.
those things, you do it more often and more often, and then you change those generational cycles. You
Right.
change those things that was brought to you by your parents and their parents, and
Yeah.
then those things are now being changed in the future
Mhm.
generations. So
Yes.
recognizing that,
Yeah.
and to say sorry, to
Mhm.
to know that, oh, I made a mistake.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's not disempowering to you to say sorry. You're not being like, "Oh, I'm being a weaker person to say
Mhm.
sorry." No, it's actually empowering,
Yes.
because then it changes you, right? Like you
Mhm.
said, the healing goes both ways.
Both ways. Yeah.
It goes both ways, because now you healed. And it doesn't have to just be a child, like you
Yeah.
said, like a coworker,
Yeah.
anybody, your spouse. You just, anytime that happens and you stop yourself and you recognize and you're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I made the mistake,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go and say sorry."
Yes,
you
I
know
love that. I love that you mentioned you that word recognize. I just love it because when you
yeah.
start to recognize, it starts becoming like a habit. You do it over and over again, it becomes a habit, and then suddenly you feel, oh wow, I'm feeling way more empowered, right? And I want to just leave you with a gift for your listeners. So there's
Yes, I was about to say that.
so in the current
Thank
book that
you.
I am writing, I am compiling phrases which nurture identity and self-worth. So phrases that you can whisper to your child whether they're going to sleep or during the day. So phrases like, you are safe, your voice matters, I love who you are. So there's over 100 of those that are in my book, and I would like to gift those to your listeners. So if you'd like to get some of those, and then you can replace, you can see it with the personality of your child, what fits in. You can pick and choose what works for your child, and I'd like to gift those to your listeners.
That is so great. Thank you so much. So, how would our listeners get in touch with you for that gift that you're giving? You
Yes.
can, and how else will they be able to keep in touch with you for any
Mhm.
of your other projects?
Okay. So I'm on Facebook as Reena Ree. So Reena and then Ree. So the whole handle is reena.re.now. And then if not Facebook, then we can get in touch through LinkedIn or Instagram or email. And email is re, Ree, Kukreja, Kukreja @gmail.com. And then one email me and I'll gift the night codes to you.
Nice. That'll be great. And so when when we're finished here, I'll make sure that all of that is in um the whatever that is called, the headings, and I'll put your LinkedIn and I'll put all of your addresses.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll put all of that in there so that anyone who wants to reach out and get those 100 codes from Rena, that would be a great thing to do. Just email her and then she can email that to you directly.
Yes.
That is such a empowering gift. I can't wait to see that. So good. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
being here, Rena. Thank you for empowering our listeners with what you said and empowering me too. I
Thank
love
you.
that. I like I said, I cannot help but knowing that I've raised raised my children. I don't have any kids in the home right now, right? So I am an empty nester,
Yes.
and to go and visit with them,
Hmm.
you know.
Thank you so much.
Now the things that you've given me, I can use, and I like I said, I've learned a lot through my teaching years when I was teaching children and having to you're actually trained, right, as
Mm-hmm.
a teacher. Now you're you're out there, you're trained as a teacher, and then you're like, oh, I wish this was given to me when I was raising my children. So this is so good that now people have what you've shared today and what, you know, the future will bring with your book. I can't wait to read that. And do everyone keep in touch with Rena so then when her book comes out in the end of August, right? You were
I have
saying, yeah.
announced it publicly now. I have to fulfill that. So yes. And the book
Perfect,
was, yeah,
perfect.
it's in its final stages now.
That is so good. You know, as an author myself and working on my third book, I know that you'll do great and your book will do good because you have so much words to give and share, so many powerful words, and I
Thank
love
you.
the way that you're bringing it to light to share with everyone. So
Thank
thank
you.
you
Thank you
again
for
for
this
being
platform.
here.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for this platform. And just
You're
even if
welcome.
this touches one person and inspires them to be more aware and conscious of how they speak to children, then you and I have done our job. So thank you so much for creating this platform.
Yes, yes. And like I said, this is live on YouTube right now, and it will be shared on all the other
Mhm.
podcast platforms once we're done here. So thank you again. Everyone, thank you for joining us here on the Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast with Rena Kukreja and hearing what she had to share about speaking, empowering children through our own words to recognize, just recognize that, yes, as adults, we're going to make our mistakes, but
Mhm.
our words have power
Mhm.
and that we can change generations through our words. Thank you again. Aloha, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.